I'm Brandon with Whiskey River.
Travis, Forcible Cure, what's up?
So we're starting this series up again. We did this in the past, the Conversations with Friends series for our YouTube channel, and I was like, we're out with a bunch of friends in Missouri here, and I'm like, let's sit down. So Travis is the one who's hosting this gathering of sorts, and I decided to have him first. So
There we go.
thanks for being on here.
I'm honored.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
Yeah. So how did you come up with the idea to have us all like come across the country to visit you?
Oh man, I'm just a people person, really. I love people. I love getting to know people, and I think we have this in common, hanging out for the last night and
Yeah.
this morning a little
Yeah.
bit. I don't think either of us have a problem just having a conversation with someone. And
Definitely.
this Axe community is just full of super cool people that have not only helped me with just the craft, but also just through different things in life, and they've become friends. But it feels weird to have these friends that are all over the country, and then it's like I've never even seen you in person before.
Yeah.
And so being right in the middle of the U.S., I remember just calling Dave and saying like, "Hey, I knew he had the space, and it was just a really great atmosphere here, and
Yeah.
he was open, and so I just threw it out there to see what happened, and next thing you know, we've got people hanging out.
Everybody moving in.
Yeah.
Moving in for the weekend.
Yeah, I say it went off without a hitch because like everybody, I've never seen this many people who've never met just dive into not just act stuff. Like you're talking about cars, and we're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
relationships and all of all
And
of the
friends and
things,
family. Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
It's like we've known each other forever. And it's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Definitely. So we're in a group chat. And amongst just private DMs with each other often, and that's kind of how this whole thing happened. Travis, Joel, and Ed all kind of like, I think.
Yeah. So a few years ago, I was just a dude making content and throwing it out there, and I had a TikTok account for about a year, and I had a picture of a wood slasher jersey and a stump, and it was sat there for like a year.
As a profile picture
As a
or video.
I thought I was making a video, and it was just a picture. I had no idea how to use it. I was that old dad that didn't
Yeah.
know what I was doing, and so my daughters helped me with making a video, and then with some of the other groups on Facebook, people are great, but it's so big, it's really hard. It can be harder to connect,
Yeah.
like organically maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And so going to TikTok, I was able to like whenever I knew exactly who Joel was, I knew exactly who Redbeard was,
Mm-hmm. And you could see their personalities in
and
their videos.
they're talking to me. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're commenting on things and saying, "How did you do this?" And I'm like, "Why are you asking what I'm doing?"
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so, but TikTok, that platform doesn't really have a good instant like direct message profile.
Oh
Like
yeah.
it doesn't do that well. And so I started a group chat in Messenger, and the next thing you know, it's like, "Hey, we know this guy. Like, what do you think about putting him in the group?" And it was like, it had been going on for like a couple of years before I realized I was the administrator of the group.
Yeah. Accidentally volunteered.
And so I looped Joel in, looped Ed in, and so now it's kind of like I don't know but it's grown from 3 people to about 15 or 16, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
And we talk. My wife, I literally have to set it aside at times because I'm just like, these are my buddies, these are my
Yeah.
friends. We're talking about life and all the things we're passionate about, and it's active, as you know, 24/7.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And when you have 15 people, there's always someone. And some guys work days, some guys work nights. So you've got the like. There's always someone working on something and wanting to share it. And
Yep.
yeah, so it's like 3 a.m. and someone's like, "Hey, just finished this after I got off work," you know. And
Well, you've got military, first responders. You've got from Alaska to New Hampshire.
yeah,
So the time differences, the jobs that people work with, the schedules that are odd, and
yeah, yeah.
it's everywhere.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I'll wake up in the morning and it'll be 45 missed messages. It's like, guys, it's 6 a.m. How did I miss this? I went to bed at midnight. But
Yep.
yeah, it's really cool. And so I've really enjoyed that culture kind of that TikTok cultivates, where it's like not only are they people commenting in your comment section and asking you like questions that seem to be most of the time pretty reasonable questions, but I also like the idea that the platform is built to be like that the creator is speaking to you. versus
Right.
like a written post with a photo. It's like it doesn't feel like they're like speaking to directly to you. But on
Right.
TikTok, you're like watching it, being like, wow, this is like I'm in Joel's shop. Is a
Yeah,
perfect
he's
setting.
talking to me and telling me what he's doing right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah. And you're like in his basement sitting on a chair, like, hi, Joel. Yeah, that's what I always feel like.
Right.
And I really, well, that's kind of what we want to do with this whole conversation thing,
Yeah.
is like, we want it to feel like someone's sitting here. But yeah, so you've been on TikTok, you got on in 2020 then? On that, like, first,
Somewhere after that, close to it. I'd have to look.
yeah,
I'd have to look, but it's not been. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but it's definitely been over 2 years.
yeah. Yeah, so I first learned about TikTok in 2019. We were on a sales call. Gretchen, my old office manager, and I were in running up the coast of Michigan selling trucker caps with
Mm-hmm.
hand sewn patches on them. And she was like, "Hey, I downloaded this app last week. Apparently, it's like big everywhere else, but not in America yet." And I was like, "Figure out how we can make money on it, and
Right.
then I'll do it." And I downloaded it and was like watching it, and it was the hula hooping and jump roping and the what the what people probably still think TikTok is,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, man, I just can't figure out how to break that break into that without dancing or something. And then I ignored the app for like 8 months, and then all of a sudden it was like I'm trying to remember who. There's a guy named I think it's Diggit Starnes is his username, and he's like an excavator and does like dirt work and stuff.
Yeah.
And I found his page, and he's not dancing. He's like running a bulldozer, and,
Working.
and yeah, and he's like showing how to like cut in a hill like is below us here, and like all of that stuff, and digging foundations. And I was like, dang, I could start sharing like the stuff that I know how to do. I don't have to be like
Yeah.
theatrical in any way. And then I was like, okay, this isn't about making money. This is about like this is storytelling.
For sure.
Almost like Instagram was with photographs
Yeah.
back in its prime. So yeah, I've just been really enjoying TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, it's a good platform. Like, so for me, it's faith, family, axes. I I don't feel like I have to go there and it's only this one thing that I can do. It's just my life. And so if you follow my page, it might be building a chicken coop or going and picking up a new donkey
yeah,
for the
yeah,
farm, or it
yeah.
might be
Building your house.
building
Yeah,
a
yeah,
house.
your
I
house.
did my
Yeah,
whole house build on
yeah,
there,
yeah,
and then obviously there's going to be lots of axe builds and working on stuff, and yeah, you can just, I don't know,
yeah.
and I feel like you said, that visual that you made with sitting in Joel's basement, like
Hmm.
watching Joel do the thing, it definitely does that. Like, the connections that I've made there are drastically different than the connections I've made on other platforms.
Yeah, definitely. And transfer of information, or I guess connection, happens organically, like 10 times faster than I've seen on any other app. Like you can be connected with, like when I met Ryan S. It was like instant. I was like, yeah, this dude's cool, and then he became in the group chat, and it's like 3 weeks later, I'm like chit chatting with him,
I
and
know.
it's like that was a guy who I didn't even know was on TikTok.
Yeah.
He didn't even exist, but
Well, and some
it
of the guys
happened
that are here
fast.
didn't know who he was at first, and I was like, hey, I just kind of met the guy. He's kind of green in the axe world, but as soon as started watching his content, I was like you said, you're like,
He's
I
passionate,
can be
obviously.
I can be hanging out with this dude in his shop right now. We'd
Yeah.
be having a blast, and so that's why I was like, hey man, I know you're kind of new to the group, but like, you want to drive 24 hours and
Yeah, come down and
come and
visit
hang
us.
out for a
Yeah.
weekend?
Yeah,
He's like,
definitely.
yep.
Definitely. That's awesome. We talked a little bit briefly yesterday, but like one thing I was wanting to ask about, and I still like saved it for this, is like when was the point in your life in which you were like, I'm hunting for vintage tools or hunting for cool old stuff
Okay.
to either fix and flip or for your own personal.
Do you just want the answer or do you want the
I
story?
want the whole story.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Because you kind of let me know a little bit of the story, but I was like,
yeah.
how wide is that of a thing?
So I think when it comes to axes and how I really landed there, because I still love just old tools. It's like
Hmm.
this chisel is sweet. Or 2 weeks ago I found an old Sears air compressor, and it's like, this thing is just neat looking and I want it and
Yeah.
it work. I'm gonna make this work again.
Yeah.
So I still am passionate about just making old things work again if I can.
Hmm.
But it started being young and poor.
Yep.
If something broke, you fixed it.
Yep.
And I remember my parents doing the best they could to make an experience seem fun to a child, but looking back on it, it was like we had nothing, and they were like trying to make coming up with a dinner out of tomato paste and saltines fun.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I
yeah,
mean? Like as
yeah,
a parent now, I
yeah.
recognize what that actually was.
Right. Yeah.
So that probably paints a picture to lead into why I don't really want to just throw away something that a little bit of elbow grease
Right.
could
Some
put
time
back
into it,
into
and yeah.
working older, right? And so fast forward, as I'm growing up, my grandfather played a big role in my life as far as just teaching me how to shoot, how to drive a stick, put me
He
on the
had a
back of a
shop.
tractor. He had a shop. He worked on big trucks and tractors, and he tinkered with everything. And he was just an old redneck here in the Ozarks, and we had a lot in common in that we could talk to anybody, and we liked to get our hands dirty and be outside. And so that's where I kind of learned how to really work on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then continue on, life is happening, and getting out of high school, and then college, and then I get married, and I'm always a guy. If I see a yard sale sign, I'm like, I want to see what they've got. You never. It's like that hunt, the diamond in the rough. My wife, if she goes shopping, she's like, I know what I want. I'm going to the store that has it. I'm buying it, and I'm going home.
Yeah.
I'm the one that's like, I'm gonna go to the place that's got all of the things because I might be able to find
The
the
one thing
thing
under the thing.
for like
Yeah.
$1.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's more fun to me than just going and getting the jeans
Yeah.
or something.
Mm-hmm.
And so always have been that way. And then I found myself in a place where it's like, I could afford to go, and it's not that expensive to do as long as you have the storage for the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I did. And so I was kind of just buying all sorts of stuff and just being fascinated with figuring out what these things are and how they work and can I make it work. And then a few years ago, whenever I really started with the axes, my wife and I, we were in a really bad spot. Like the relationship was, I don't know if it really matters, but it was that
Yeah.
point where like it was either time to move on or that some drastic things needed to happen. And I was in a very low spot, and I had an axe, and I went out. We had a tree that had died of some kind of disease in the front yard, and it wasn't massive. It was probably 12 or 13 inch tree.
Yeah.
And I cut it down
With an axe.
with an axe.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
felled the tree, and then I just we're talking like it was I don't know who made it. It was probably a wood slasher if I had to guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a Michigan axe that I had put on a hardware store handle from Garner's, and not great for what I was doing.
Right.
But by the time I got to about the third log, my tank was empty, and I was sitting down and like kind of giving up,
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, realizing that like I might not be able to do this, but this is possible. Like, I can kind of looked up and it's like, all right, God, if this is going to work, I need some help.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I'm at the point.
I'm there.
Yeah.
Right. And so there was this process, and it was really hard where, I'm going to personal counseling. My wife and I are going to couples counseling. She has her own therapist, and we both had baggage that needed unpacked, and then we had a marriage that we wanted to save because we did love each other.
Yeah.
But it was just we had reached that spot, and some people are more verbal processors, and as much as I talk, I can process a lot with a piece of sandpaper and a chunk
Yeah.
of steel.
Yeah. Standing in your
Yes.
little
And
safe
so
spot.
my first axe that I really, my phrase that I say nerded out on, it ended up being a Woodings Verona. It was my grandfather's. I had no idea what it was, and I polished it to a mirror finish with sandpaper.
Yeah, and I saw it. I saw it yesterday, and it is. Yeah, it
It's-
took you
and
a while.
It's on a terrible hardware store handle
Yep.
that I had because at the time I hadn't been introduced into the whole world of what axes had to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And but the head is gorgeous, and then by spending that many hours just sitting there and working through all of these things that were going on in my life,
Yeah.
my wife, my kids, my job, my life, all of it, I became curious. It's like, what is this? So it had a stamp, but you know how the Woodings Verona stamp is just mushed.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to read. So
Jammed into the head. Yeah.
yeah, so I knew it was something, and of course, I'm thinking, I'm thinking at the time, like, oh, it's my grandpa's. It's got to be really old. It could be valuable.
Yeah.
You know, like, and I still have it. I would never have sold it, but it's still like,
And
I
you've
want,
sanded on it now
yeah,
for
it's like
like
I've invested in this thing. I want to
yeah.
know more about it. So that's when, at the time, I was only really on Facebook, and I think I had an Instagram that I didn't use at all. And so I went to Axe Junkies, and I see these guys now, and I try to sympathize and remember that we all came from a similar place. When you see a question, you're like, dude, that's something
Obviously,
that everybody knows,
yeah.
you know. But I was that guy, and I could not tell you who initially kind of informed me on all of it.
There's probably 150 people that typed the same thing in the comment.
Probably,
Yeah.
but I learned about it, and then through that, I was like, okay, and that's when I realized, like, okay, everybody really has a thing. Like, some people like Pokemon cards, and
Yeah.
they go all out and know everything about it. Some people are car guys. Some people, and then even within those little, there's subsections, and
Yeah, like with the axes is like there was a guy that I met at a show. I don't know him, but
Yeah.
he was like he had over 500 cruiser axes.
Right.
All he collected was just
Yeah.
he didn't buy a single other axe.
Right.
Just cruisers.
And so I think, but it boils down to just the people and the passion. And I think my past that had kind of brought me to a place where I enjoyed old tools. And there's also something therapeutic about swinging an axe. There always
Yeah.
has been.
Right.
And then meeting the people and recognizing, like, oh, these people are passionate. And it clicked. I've had several little things that I've been interested in my life that kind of came and went, and it was fun. But this has been one of those things that it's just been constant.
It's stuck. Yeah.
It's stuck.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that fast forward that to now it's literature, and it's everything.
Like I mean the one thing that in your collection you have that's interesting is you have like the oddities that come along with axes that you enjoy. It's like the hand carved
the little hand carved ones.
yeah,
And
or the even just the sounding axe hatchets, which was a side quest you went on for or still on.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when you look at the shop wall of your shop, which I can put a video up in at the end of this video, kind of like showing the wall of your shop. It's like it's like a mood board for Travis,
Yes.
and it has a lot of axes on it, but there's stuff related to your job. There's stuff related to your family. There's stuff related to like your I guess grandfather being family, you know, and then friends with the war
stuff.
club, and so it's kind of like just this. You can see how it all flows, but you're the connecting factor of it. Yeah, I like that. That's how I want the front building at work to be. Is like a Brandon Roost smashed on the wall
You can
mood
look
board.
at this and break it all down and say, oh, I kind of get
I know
him
Brandon,
now.
and
Yeah.
I can see why there's a front end of a Volkswagen, but then there's also a hatchet, so yeah, and you just built the shop.
Just built the shop. Yes. So the house that we were in when I kind of started was had a like an oversized garage, but we used it. So I basically had to build everything. I built tables, and I would just put things on the tables, and then I could move the tables. So we have to pull the cars out, move the tables out, and then I would work. And my wife is very gracious, but it was annoying to have sawdust and metal shavings, and then the whole wall. She would get out of her car, and there's just hundreds of
sharp
axes
things. Yeah.
hanging on the wall, like, and some of them are like 10 deep this way, and then the loose heads that are just slid on, and she's like, if I bump into something, this could be dangerous.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
And so when we rebuilt my grandparents' old place, it was something like, it was kind of a given. Like, we both knew that there had to be a spot for both of our sakes that could be separate. And so yeah, now I was used to working in kind of a long, narrow space, and so kind of doubled the length, put a garage door on each end, and so now I can open it up, the breeze blows through, and yeah, it's a dream. But it has been, I've had to kind of live vicariously through my friends, because it was we're going to sell a house, get the house ready to sell.
Yeah, I remember that.
Sold a business, and then it all sold quickly, so we had to move out into a rental while we were finishing the build. And so all of my stuff was just like in storage for a little over 6 months, which is
Yeah.
a blip, but it's when it's something you do every day,
Yeah.
I'm like, you know,
And then you had to get the shop ready to even be able to work in. It's not like you
yes,
just the shop's got the vise there and the bench, and it was like a whole
exactly.
6 months of you
Hmm.
building out your interior of that because
Yep.
obviously the house was the main focus,
Right.
not the
Yeah.
yeah. You're not like we don't need cabinets. I gotta put
We
my
got a
work.
shop.
I gotta get my workbench going.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that was pretty much a year. I mean,
It really was start to finish.
yeah, start to finish
Yep.
of you being kind of in that transition period.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I figured out what that Woodings Verona was, it opened up the doors opened, and I went into a whole new. It's like Aladdin, a whole new world,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and then I just started just learning, and I loved just like liking old stuff is cool, but then like knowing the stories that these tools have, like you want to know,
Yeah.
like where did it come from, who made it, why do these axe heads, why are they shaped different,
Mm-hmm.
what were they made for,
Yeah.
and so that is what led me to like, okay, these handles, like I recognize that this lacquered, bulky handle from the hardware
Yeah.
store,
With wrong sized eye, or
yes,
you
like
know.
it's like it'll work, I guess. But then it's like there's better options, and I'm seeing these options, and that's I remember I was telling someone this story last night. So I had probably my first order from Whiskey River,
Okay.
and I had no idea that you didn't. It was like an auto generated, like, hey, I read these. What are your thoughts? What are you this? What are that? I thought you had sent me that message. I thought you had sat down and said, you know what, Travis Pennington, I'm sending you an email right now.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
thought that's what it was, and so I don't know if you remember this or not, but
Okay.
I sent you a lengthy. You'd have to go back and look, but I sent you a pretty lengthy email back. But then you replied, and then after I figured out that this is just part of your business model, and it is a way to
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
I know
yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
saying you don't care. I know you care.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
it goes out to everybody, and you
Hmm.
do read those
And then
things.
I read them and reply. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
but it like I'm sitting there thinking like I'm this dude that just figured out that axes are cool, and Brandon from Whiskey River's talking to me.
sending me an
I felt
email.
like a fangirl. I'm like, whew,
Yeah, apparently I wrote the automated email to be very good. You know.
Have you had this story before from people? Like,
Yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, I get it in the email. Where, well, the most popular reply to that is people saying, thinking that it's like some sort of spam, or like that they don't believe. So you believed it,
I
and
totally
that yeah,
bought it. Hook,
right?
line, and
Which
sinker.
because it's authentic, right?
Yeah.
I can't personally email 1,000 people a month, right? So I
Right.
have an automated one that goes out a few days after your orders received.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you've gotten the thing. Like I just want to check up and make sure that if there's something wrong, I can help fix it, or if there is something that is right and you are happy about it, you can tell me so that I can like replicate that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's like real data with our customers versus just being like, I think they want, and
Right.
so the common reply is oftentimes like, is this real? And like I'm replying to this, but I don't know if this is you, and then they'll write like share their thoughts. So yeah, I've definitely had it before.
But that was probably the first experience I had with like recognizing that like people in this community are just cool and they care. And then Joel Burr and Bevel, another person that like as a nobody I'd seen, it was just like, wow, this guy's a master of his craft, and
Yeah.
people follow him and all of the things. And then it's like you make a comment, he's like, yeah, man, and I use this belt and I use this, I'm doing
Mm-hmm.
this is my setup, here's some pictures of how I built it, here's where I got it from. And it's like, oh, okay, like no, there's not this, I'm sure there's some level of it in there of people that are just like, the noses are up, like they think
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
better.
yeah.
I know there's
there's
people
definitely that.
exist.
Yeah, yeah. In every
But-
hobby, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the guys that I've come into contact with have just been down to earth, like salt of the earth
Yeah.
type of people that are happy to shoot out like, hey, this is how I do this. Pointers, tips, tricks of the trade, all the things. And
Yeah. I think it
I'm blown
helps.
away by
One thing that I know with becoming friends with you is that I think you can give yourself a little bit of credit for the people that have come into your life through this because you're very good at like asking questions in an appropriate context or manner, right? So I'm never like, ooh,
Right.
like you're not like, asking the questions that probably shouldn't be asking out the gate, and you're creating conversation
Hmm.
when you're asking.
Well, and I try to.
It comes from being good at talking to people and and being practiced at communicating with people in different scenarios in life. Um, so I think that helps attract other people who are good at that. You grew up here,
I
or
did.
in this area?
I was born and raised just south of here in Rogers, Arkansas. I still live. Well, I still if someone asks me where I live, I say Arkansas.
Yeah.
I haven't been, and I'm only 3 miles across the state line.
Yeah,
I'm not.
right.
I'm not a. I don't. Is it a Missourian? I don't know. I don't know what that is called, but
Yeah.
but I work for the city of Rogers. I was born and raised there. Graduated from Rogers High School. It's definitely
Home.
home.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about so you talked about your first axe, the Woodings Verona. How about Holy Grail? What is like if it came across and you had the cash, right? Uh, you come across it, it's a no-brainer. You're buying it.
Man. So this was brought up not too long ago, and I used to have a very easy answer, but I kind of got it, and then it's like
It wasn't
it didn't do the thing for me. So the it I'm that guy. I wanted a Black Raven. It was the thing. I wanted it, and
I remember you telling me about how you wanted one.
and
Yeah.
yes, well, and then you shipped me the Connie,
Yep.
and I had a blast with that thing, and it was a few months later that I bought mine. And
Another Connie.
no, it was actually a Dayton.
Oh,
It was a
Dayton. Okay.
And it was gorgeous, but then I was like, it's too pretty. I don't know, like it had no sentimental value to me at all. Like when I had it, I mean, I had put time in it. There was effort in building it, and it was gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't have any value. It didn't feel like it mattered as much as I thought it would.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's nothing compared to my grandpa's axe.
Right.
Like I would give the Raven away and keep the Woodings Verona.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, which is wild to think about without context.
Without context,
yeah, but with the
absolutely.
context, it makes perfect sense. Yeah.
But then, even the Secret Santa axes, I value those
Yeah,
because
same.
people have put the time into building them.
And they didn't just build that axe, and they didn't get a thing that was like, "You're this Secret Santa," and they go to their axe rack and pull it. They like almost every single one of those people are like building it for the person that's receiving it.
Yeah.
The one
And
I got
had
from
to- go ahead. Sorry.
the one I got from Dustin O'Hara of Art of Craftsmanship. I just did
I saw that.
I just did a TikTok on it. It is my favorite axe because I know that he got my name and he knows kind of what I'm into. He didn't send me something I wouldn't use, and I love that axe. It's
It
great.
took me a year to figure out that it was as genuine as it was.
The Secret Santa.
The Secret Santa.
Yeah, definitely.
I got my first axe, and I was like, oh man, I messed up, because I built an axe and I sent it to somebody, but it wasn't. I did not put the effort into it that I should have.
I did the same thing for the first one. I was like, ooh.
Yeah, I felt a little guilty, and but anyway, that
Yeah,
there's
mine worked out
value
too.
there.
The guy that got it was a friend of mine. I knew what he liked. He wanted one. He was happy. But I was like, after I received a handmade ash handle with, just
Well,
lots
he's
of hours.
incredible, though, too.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, and it was exactly what I wanted. It was like, wow. Next time I do a Secret Santa thing, I'm gonna pass
be
this
better than
on.
this.
I'm gonna do the same amount of effort that Dustin did, and I'm gonna make something that's just amazing.
Yeah, and I've got a Tasmanian. It's a Dandenong
Mm-hmm.
that Matt Baugh made the handle. Joel provided the head. Ed repaired the handle and hung it. Like it was all just like the
Collective.
the communal effort
Mm-hmm.
into putting it together, and I value that one a lot. I don't know. Maybe, and I don't even know what it's called. What's the one that Ed brought? The
ML Forge one.
No, not the old one. The Kelly, the writing, the etched one.
Oh yeah, it's double etched both
Double edged
faces.
both sides. It's
I
got a
can't
name.
remember.
I don't
Yeah,
remember
and
what it's
I
called.
didn't see it. Last night we were talking about it, and I was like, how did I not
It's
see
down
this?
there.
Yeah.
It would be, but here's the thing. I have a very strong feeling that if I got my hands on one, I would probably hang it, clean it, look at it for a little bit,
And then pass it on.
pass it on.
Yeah, that's one
Keep it
thing
something
that
like
we talk about. My dad and I talk about a lot. And it's like if I get a black raven. I mean, the black raven that I've got right now is a little different, but the if I find a black raven, I just sell it and I buy other axes that are like I feel comfortable swinging anywhere. Like I'm not like, oh, is there barbed wire in this tree, or is there, I don't like swinging axes that I'm like, if I nick this bit, I'm gonna
You're
be,
gonna cry.
or I'm gonna have I'm just gonna be a jerk the rest of the day because I'm gonna be upset. So, and
Yep.
if you sell a black raven for $1,000, $100 vintage axe, like $100 for a vintage axe head, and then $40 for a handle, like you're getting a lot of those for that $1,000, like,
Absolutely.
and stuff that you're like super into. So, I don't know if I would ever feel comfortable having like multiple Holy Grail axes at a
No.
time for my personal collection.
No,
Yeah.
same. I fell in, like, after going through the different axe heads here in the Ozarks, you find a bunch of Michigans and Daytons.
Okay.
Connecticut patterns are they're fairly uncommon in my experience. All the estate sales and auctions and garage sales and different things.
How about jerseys?
Jerseys are not. They're I don't know. I find them, but not very often.
Okay.
But I don't really care to swing those very often. I love swinging a Connie,
Yeah.
and so I've got I believe it's a paper label plum. I think, like, it doesn't have any markings on it.
Connie.
Connie,
Yeah.
and I use the snot out of that thing.
That's your like main go-to
my
user.
go-to.
Yeah.
Just if I've got whenever we got this property, it had been sitting for a long time. The fence line was grown up. Lots of just stuff that needed cleared out, and
Big trees too.
some of them were.
Yeah. I mean that one that was on TikTok and
Yeah. I
that your
pretty much
whole
cut
family
through
was
that
involved
whole
with
thing.
pretty much. Yeah.
I pretty much went through that whole thing with that Connie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's light enough. It slices. I mean, I'm not splitting wood with it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
What length handle's that on? Or what handle is
It's
it
on a
on?
36-inch. You know what it is. It's the hickory stamp with the triangle and it's gold paint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I had come across that old handle and I put it
Yeah.
in there, and it's just rocking.
Yeah. Sweet. And a Connie
I think
on a
it's got a
36.
metal wedge in it.
I've never swung a Connie on a 36. It worked perfect for that tree because you needed
Yes,
length.
I needed the length.
Yeah, especially when you're up on top trying to chop down into that. Yeah, I didn't realize that was that long of a handle. I remember thinking when watching that video, like he needs a longer handle, but you can't get any longer than that.
No.
Like, a 42
I
would
could
have been.
modify one of your 40-inch doubles,
Yeah,
to
doubles.
like try to make it fit somehow.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Do you so trajectory of Forcible Cure, which is your brand?
Brand, yeah.
Yes. What is what direction are you taking it with? It doesn't have to be the same in a year from now, but like right now, what are you feeling and how's that?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I would love, like, I buy shirts. I'll have shirts made, and then I'll just send them to people.
Yeah.
And then I've done that twice. Of course, I've got some. I don't know. I find it fun, but
How about let's talk about the content side. So let's not talk about like the brand.
Okay,
As in,
content.
like we're not talking about
I
money.
see.
We're talking about
I
like
see. I thought
how
you
does
meant, like,
Forcible?
where am I
Yeah,
going?
yeah.
Okay.
I first started that, but now I'm thinking about it like content wise. What is your your house is built. You've got the shop is
Pretty much
80%
there.
there. You're obviously going to change it throughout your life, but like what is the next kind of content direction you're going in?
Okay, I'd kind of like to get back to where I started, because where I started was like, so some guys they don't if there's an old handle, they're pitching it.
Yep.
They don't
Just
care.
saw it off the
Saw
axe
it
and
off
just
and
stump it
saw
out,
off, throw it away, burn it, whatever. I have and this kind of goes into like why I think the restoration of these old tools matters is because I think there's a visual there, like maybe a correlation between myself and probably everyone, if we're being honest, in that we've probably all found ourselves in that rusty, pitted, rotted handle place,
Yeah.
or broken handled place, or whatever,
In need of repair.
in need of repair, and fill in the blank for what that meant
Yeah.
for you.
Right.
And then it might take drilling holes through the handle and forcing dowels in there. It might take 36 grit sandpaper, and it's going to hurt. But
Yeah.
like, you can put forth that work and you can get there. And so for me, I love, if I can salvage a broken handle or an old handle, I will.
Yeah.
When it comes to restoring an axe head, minus my grandpa's that I put the mirror finish on, I want, like, it's kind of like a scar. Like, you know what? This is where it
Keep
came
its
from.
character.
Keep the
Yeah.
characters where it came
Yeah.
from. This is what it is. And so when I started, that's kind of what I did. Is I would set my camera up. There would be like 2 hours worth of me working that I would
Speed up.
kind of like Jimmy DiResta did
Yeah.
in some of his earlier videos, where it's fast forward, he would voice over and just kind of talk through the process.
Yeah.
I'd like to get back to some of that because I've got several axes that I'd love to just take apart,
Yeah.
clean, put
Do
a new
a full
edge, restoration. You
Yeah.
know? And for me, it's all about the small touches. So the wedge work being that needs to look nice. The edge, let's make the edge nice. Maybe the pole. Also, like the bottom of the palm swell. Like, there's little places where, like, if you see it, someone walking around with it, or it's hanging on the shop wall, it kind of looks like an old axe that's ready to go. But when you take it down and look at it, you're like, oh, this is. You just kind of see some little notes that,
Personality.
like, little extra touch was done here and there.
Yeah.
And so I'd like to get back to
That style.
doing that,
Yeah.
because, like you said, there's been the process of building the house and then setting up the shop, and I've just gotten there, and I've only in the last month really gotten to start putting axes back together again.
Yeah, you're one of the reasons why we started, like, when we get axe collections in, we will sometimes have heads that are just trash. I mean, like, they're cracked eye, or they've been used as a sledgehammer and they're just wallowed out, but the handle's still, like, I can get the handle out, and that you're one of the reasons why we started doing those auctions. Yeah, on the auctions, it's like some of them are like a lot of work. Like I'm not expecting to like be like, oh my gosh, the whole company can retire off this handle bundle. But it feels bad to me if I know that there's at least one person out there. You and Harry are the two guys who put content out with it. But it's like, if I know there's one guy out there that will find joy in fixing up one of these handles, or taking inspiration off of one of these handles to make a handle, it's worth it to me. So I spend the 40 minutes to remove all those handles and then put it in the bundle, and those have been good.
Shotgun method.
Yeah, and skip the shotgun method. Yeah, which wasn't me, for the record.
Was it somebody else?
That's my buddy. Yeah. So I'm not the one in the video. That's my friend Daryl.
Okay.
Daryl lived in North Carolina. And we were at his place. I was at his place, and we were talking about it. And he was bouncing the idea off of me. It was one of those late night campfire talks of like,
Right.
I'm thinking that I can't remember. Daryl's gonna send me a huge message on this when he sees this and be like, "This is actually how it happened." But I can't remember if it was like an old timey hand drawing. This is how you get a stump out of an axe eye. The wood that's stuck in the eye of the axe, or if it was something that he came up with. Whatever one it was, he was like, I'm gonna take a 12 gauge. I want to use a slug, and I'm just gonna shoot the wood out of the eye. And of course we talked about it, and it was like we weren't in the right space to be driving into town and getting a slug and doing it. So I was like, all right. And then I left because I stayed at his house for when I was over in North Carolina for work and stuff. So he sent me that video a week later and was like, hey, I don't do social media like this, but you should post this. And that one I posted on TikTok, and it lived for like an hour on TikTok before it got straight up community guidelines violation. Instagram held it for maybe a day and then just pulled the post. It was just gone. Like this, and Instagram doesn't do that much anymore. But 2 years ago, Instagram would you just like log in and be like, where the video is just not there. So, so yeah, that was wild. I want to recreate it. I want to recreate it in the safest environment in which you could do it. with some sort of either remote control that can move the trigger or a pull string or something.
You can hook. I know a lot of the guys, the gun tubers or whatever they are. They'll use just a lead sled and then string it up, get behind cover.
Yeah. Yeah, I figured like the engine block of my Power Stroke.
That's probably smart. Just thinking about all of the things going on.
Yeah,
is probably a wise
yeah.
decision.
So I'm like, so I'm gonna recreate it. It'll be like the fastest way to clear an eye of an axe head or something, and be a full production video. I figured it's gonna be very on track with the Stickler wood splitting video with the cone off my axle, where people are like, why? That's the most inefficient way, and I'm just doing it just to learn.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've never used this. No one's making videos on this. You go on YouTube and it's like there's a video on everything.
Absolutely.
Every once in a while, you can find where there is either very low quality videos from like 10 years ago, which was the Stickler, or there's just like no one that's put a video out, and it's usually the dumb stuff like that no one would want to make a video on. Anyway, so yeah, but that's soon to come, maybe this summer. Yeah, but so where can people find you?
It's just Forcible Cure. It's
TikTok,
Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. It's all there. I probably need to do YouTube more. I feel like once I start thinking about it too much, then I'm not having as much fun, and so TikTok is just really easy to make the video, make the post.
Yeah, for sure.
And
for
so
sure.
there's times where I'll go through phases and I'm just like, I need to, because it's not that hard to really put it together and just upload it. But there's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube.
Okay.
Facebook is just under Travis Joel Pennington, but everything else is Forcible Cure.
Forcible Cure. All right, I'll put links in the description of the video. And so thanks for having us.
Dude, it's been awesome,
Yeah.
dude. I'm so glad to meet you. Not just you, but everybody. And thanks for coming. It's
Yeah.
really cool.
Thanks for hosting it.
Sweet.
See you guys.
See ya.